Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of Building Regime. This is with Hamish and Ellis. We're going to talk you through the journey of building Regime. So, an update for this week. We mentioned last week that we have a R&D date booked, but this is now confirmed. They've confirmed that they're expecting all the ingredients for Monday, and we'll be able to get in there for Thursday. So, it's really exciting. What do you think, Ellis?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. Now it's all booked in, and it's actually happening, which is really cool. Very much looking forward to next week because it'll be the first time we've ever even tried this formulation that the scientist has concocted. So it's going to be nice to see it come together. And I think that's going to be super rewarding, finally tasting it and then trying to get it right on that day. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah. I think the drive back, because obviously now we've changed manufacturers. For me personally, the old one was a lot closer to me, or both of us really. So I think the drive back is going to be the really, like, we're going to be buzzing, or if we don't quite get it right, it's going to be like, oh, how can we get it? How can we fix it the way we want
Yeah.
it to? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
I haven't actually thought into that far ahead. So now you put that in my mind. I'll be thinking about that. I think what I'm a bit gutted about actually that I was going to say to you is I wish we were traveling up together because then we could get loads of content on the way up. But obviously, because we're so far
Yeah.
away, yeah, you're just gonna have to get your sister to like record your thoughts and feelings on the way up, and I'll try and do the same. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good day, and it will be probably the most exciting bit of content that we would have released so far because it's quite interesting. I think we'll be to get a tour of like the whole facility, give people a real insight into actually how things are manufactured and all of those sorts of things. So that's going to be super interesting.
I was going to say, I had a thought, and to be honest, it came from just talking to some of my mates about the project. Obviously, now we're starting to post, I'm having more and more conversations with other people around what we're doing and sort of how we're doing it and all those sort of things. And they made it apparent that like the content we're posting at the minute, it's some of it's really specific, but some of it we take for granted, I think, because we've been trying to do it and doing it for, well, 7, 8 months. Um, but I wanted to say, like, how did we come to the decision of a manufacturer in the first place? Obviously, we've changed recently, but what do you think is the key things we looked for when we were trying to find someone suitable for us and sort of other people find, whether it's in food or supplements or clothes, how to find their manufacturer that's suitable for them from the get-go? What do you think?
Yeah. Actually, I think before we dig into that, that's a really good point. Because even on our last podcast episode, we overlooked like the whole thing. And then we were just like, yeah, we found a new manufacturer, but didn't even dig into it. So you're definitely right there. And I think that's something that we were talking about before this. We need to be way more, almost highlight all the things that, yeah, like you were saying, completely take for granted. And don't even think of sharing, but the bits that people actually want to hear. So yeah, I think in terms of deciding on a manufacturer, the biggest one is because obviously like budget's limited, right? And we're not going to do a crazy first run like a more established brand would. So I think the first step would be, can you meet the MOQ or MOV, which is the minimum order quantity or minimum order value? From quite a few of the ones I've been talking to, they completely vary. The lower side would usually be around 25,000 units. So in our case, that would be 25,000 sticks or stick sachets worth of powder per flavor. Obviously, we're going to do a slightly larger run of this, or we think we are anyway. But I think that's sort of the first step. And then after that, I think another one is how good are they at communicating with you and how well do they take on kind of your values as a brand and what you want to do? Because with a few of them that we've spoken to, I think you'll agree, especially at the start, you do get a few rogue ones who don't even listen to your brief. They just literally just want to like sell you their base, like already made electrolyte powder. And they're like, yeah, you can just repackage it and sell it and we can get that to you within a couple of weeks. And we're like, well, that's exactly why we're producing this, because we don't want to be consuming those. So yeah, I think that's another one. And then actually for me, they're the main two. I think, do they meet your budget and can you actually afford to work with them? And then how bought in are they to your vision as a brand and your values, and can they match that and actually produce it? What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the only other thing I can think of that is really relevant is working with brands that work with startups, because you've got manufacturers who kind of do bespoke manufacturing. So whether that's packaging or whether it's in our case, powder or electrolyte powder or supplement, whatever it is, the people who kind of don't really have an MOQ and you just order it as a bespoke product, usually they're way more expensive. So you kind of look at it and go like, well, actually, that's not really going to work for us. But on the other side of that, there's manufacturers that work with startups regularly and quite willing to help get businesses off the ground. And again, in our case, with like supplements and electrolytes and other things. But I'm sure that in other industries that's the case also. So yeah, I think it's just finding those manufacturers, those people that are willing to help you and your business get up off the ground, because they don't just provide the product; they can provide so much other support if you need it or want it. They can help provide designers, they can help provide like labeling specialists, everything. Like we got our formulation scientist from the manufacturer. That's how we got in contact with her and how we got to developing that. So yeah, I think just finding you just got to speak to loads and find someone who's willing to both that can fit your budget, like you said, because that's really important. Meet your brand sort of morals of what you want to do. And yeah, just willing to help with startups. And I think that's really key for us, is that the ones who are struggling to are willing to help us get up off the ground, which is just really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think another one is that also, as much as we want to say, we're completely deliberate with who we're working with, obviously we are, and we make sure that we check every single ingredient that they propose using, and we're very thorough with it, which is the reason why this whole process has taken so long in the first place, probably 3 months longer than it needed to, because we were that sort of defined in what we wanted and wouldn't use certain bits. But then also, you are quite limited to who you can actually use, I think, for your first run, because not that many people will take on the order quantity that you're going for initially, because it might just not be commercially viable for them. Usually it's what's the minimum amount of money that it takes to run their machine. And if your run doesn't meet that, then they're not going to do it, are they? So usually you do have to go with those smaller sort of family-run manufacturers and then work our way up. And I'm sure as time goes on and as our order quantities increase, we'll probably move from manufacturer to manufacturer, which is what most sort of startups seem to do. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Is that everything covered from that one, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, when I've just been speaking to people about it, it's just like, I think we need to give more of an insight. It's our intention to do that, but I think when we're talking, it kind of, like I said, just overlook the fact that because we've done it, we kind of assume that other people know what we've done, but obviously they don't. So
yeah,
I think that's really interesting. I think the only other things I'd say is that obviously off the back of us booking in R&D and things, this week we've spent some time updating the designer we've got and the copywriter that's helping us out to, we updated them about R&D and kind of post a plan to move forward with them. And again, just similarly, how did we find both the designer and the copywriter? And to us, less so on the design aspect, but more so on the copy. Why have we chosen to go forward with a copywriter at this stage? And what are sort of benefits of using someone like that?
Yeah, I think actually before we even get into why we've used them, let's talk about how we actually found one. So I think that's really interesting. Well, first of all, let's define what a copywriter actually is. Hamish, go ahead.
So basically, a copywriter is someone that helps you talk about the brand, how the brand speaks, how it interacts with its customers, the image of the brand, basically. So somebody who helps with all the sort of typography, all the wording, the names of maybe flavors or like products, all of that sort of things. The copywriter can basically give you a brand personality, if you will, through text. That's basically probably the best way of putting it.
I was going to say, it's actually, most brands don't even start with one. They'll probably just usually word it themselves and then design off the back of that. But I think we saw it as necessary to work with one. And actually, the one that we're working with has been our biggest expense so far. A lot more than even the designer was. But I think for us, what we were finding hard at the start was, obviously in one of our previous episodes, we said we put together sort of a 10-page document, and it was just all scrambled around about, how we like that other brands position themselves, how we want to position ourselves. And if you read through it, it's all just very messy. And if we tried to give that to an audience, it wouldn't make any sense. So they really help you sort of define those key values and then allow you to speak about it in a really concise way, which I think is really important because your designs are a visual representation of your, I guess, morals, values, and positioning of the brand, I'm care to say. So in theory, the more defined they are, the easier it is for your designer. So I think they work really well in synchrony, because if you can get really defined on exactly how you're positioning your brand, what your audience is, then it's very easy for the designer to make that something visual. But if you're not really clear on that, then I think it's, well, exactly like before when we were working with our previous designer, the designs don't really come out as you would have liked them to, but I guess you haven't given them the right ammo to go off and take. Am I right in saying?
Yeah. I think that 100% it's like a knock-on effect. If you know how the brand's supposed to be portrayed to your customer, then the designer can make your packaging fit the people that are going to buy it, right? That's what the whole idea is. But I think another big point around why we started is with the fact that we don't really necessarily want to start a hydration brand per se. We want to start health and wellness brand, and this is just the start of it. So having the brand as its own sort of like entity, if you will, have its own personality, its own image, let's say, it means that we're not just stuck down one route of hydration, because although it's a massive part of your health and well-being, which again, as we develop the products, we'll go more into, and again, once the product comes out, there'll be a lot more content around that. But I think both of us wanted to be around health and wellness in that space. So having the brand as kind of separate to the product was quite important, I think, from the start.
Yeah, I think definitely. And again, like we were talking about before, the way that we position the brand is just going to change over time and as it grows. Like what we start with now will probably be very different to what it ends up being in 5 years. But I don't think you can overthink that too much. I think you need to position it in the way that you need to from the beginning and how you actually feel about things. I mean, I guess even as we learn more about electrolytes, the product's also going to improve, because that's what we want it to be, something that just evolves and improves over time. And then I think that makes it a lot easier to also like make moves in that direction as well, because you're not trying to launch with the perfect product, which I don't think you can do. And I think if you do that, you'll just never launch anything. So obviously at the moment we've used as many of the most experienced people that we could to create what we think will be the best product on the market for our audience. And then from there, we'll just keep iterating it as we go forward.
And then just to loop full circle on that, how do we find the copywriter? How do we find the designer to help us move forward?
I think you just got to get on LinkedIn, honestly. That's how we found pretty much everyone that we've worked with. I mean, I think the labeling specialist we found through our old manufacturer, didn't we? And that's just a case of people within the industry referring you on, which is actually really nice. It makes things a lot easier. But then I think with stuff like finding the right designer and copywriter, that's its own challenge in itself, because obviously they're not all the same. They all specialize in different things. And I think it makes a big difference because, so the way that we started was we got on LinkedIn and we just started with brands that we liked, and we liked the way that they were positioned. And then we just started reaching out to copywriters and designers who work for those brands. So our copywriter now works for a brand who we both absolutely love the way that they position themselves. And they're a very big brand in the UK, which is actually kind of crazy. And really nice to sort of be in that and be speaking to someone who's working with one of the biggest, I'm going to say, brands in their sector in the UK at the moment. But that just started with reaching out to her on LinkedIn, came back. She was interested in working with us privately. we had about 5 that we had to whittle through, didn't we? So we just jumped on calls with them. And actually, the first 3, we were like, this is not going well. Like, they do not understand what we're trying to do at all. And I think you just know. You can speak to them for 5 minutes and you know. And then we got on the call with this girl, who we're not going to obviously expose and say who she is. But within 5 minutes, she completely understood what we were trying to do. And even when I was asking those questions where I was trying to put her on the spot, like really tough sort of questions, like how would you position it in this way, knowing what you do? And what she relayed back to us was just perfect. So that was really nice. So I think that's what it is. You just got to, I think that's what I'd say. If someone's trying to do the same thing and they want to find people like freelancers to help them with their project, I would get on LinkedIn and just start with brands that you really like, because you'd be very surprised how many people actually want to have little projects on the side and that sort of thing.
I think it's such a good point there, in the fact that you've got to find someone that, for one, you get on with and you can speak to, because at the end of the day, you're going to be kind of going back and forth about the things you want and what they see and trying to find that medium, really. So it's really important to get on with them, but 2, someone that aligns with actually the project and what you're trying to do, because like I said, I've spoken to people in the past and clearly wasn't the case, or clearly they didn't understand us or the space we're trying to go into enough. And you just know, like I say, just know it's not going to work, or you know it's going to work. So, and yeah, we're really pleased about everyone we worked with so far. I think they've been great. So yeah. I advise that method or strategy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a weird one when you're outreaching, though. It must be what like headhunting feels like as a career, because you're basically just reaching out to people and you have no clue sort of who's going to get back to you and that sort of thing. So it kind of is just a case of jumping on calls and keeping going until you find the right person. And even if you don't, it's a learning process, the whole thing. So just got to keep going with that one. And then I think actually another really good point, which has been like a big sort of learning phase for me with working with people externally to help with the project, is I think they just need to understand that as a startup, they need to be somewhat lenient with you, because really, like, we just had no clue. The first designer that we were working with, we were asking her to do all of these things, and we didn't even have like the legal information for our packaging done. So we were asking her to design our outer box without any of that information. And obviously from her standpoint, then from her standpoint, she needs to understand how to display certain words and certain text visually, and it all makes a difference, and just couldn't do it. So that is what ended up for us losing quite a bit of money, because we were using her time, but not efficiently. So I think it's really important to have a nice, transparent relationship where they just maybe have worked with startups before and just understand, like, there's going to be loads of things you're overlooking. And then maybe give you a few pointers. Look, you got to maybe have this, and this sorted that you might not know about, and almost relay to you the most basic information that they'd take for granted that someone would know when working with a designer. Because most of it, we had no clue. Like, we just thought, we just say, we want you to visualize this and go do it. But it's not quite as simple as that, is it?
No, not at all. I'd also say I'd at least take half of your timeline or have your dog you think it's going to take and add that on to the whole time. So like do like 1.5 times timeline, because there's always delays, because there's always things that you just don't know about or don't think about. Or I think we were quite good at relaying the fact that we literally had no idea what we were doing. But even so, there's also just things that you can't control. There's delays from other things and all sorts. So yeah, I say, it's all part of it. It's all learning and it's all understanding more about our product, this whole thing. So it's really interesting. But again, just to save some money if you do, or I'm doing something similar, then yeah, I'd definitely make it clear and add a bit extra onto your timeline.
Yeah, I think also probably the biggest thing to come from it, if you want like a black and white bit of advice, would be have a product finalized and finished before you start trying to find ways to talk about it and make it look visually. Because that is basically what's costed us all this money, is we were trying to have all these designs and how we talk about the brand sorted before we even had a product, which actually doesn't really make much sense because you're finding ways to talk about certain ingredients and sometimes you don't even end up using them. You'll find something different that maybe aligns with you more, and then that wastes their time, and obviously their time costs money. So it also wastes your budget. I guess on some more news. So R&D next week that we've touched on. Obviously we've talked about how, it's going to be on the 27th, which is next Thursday. So the 27th of Feb, which is going to be super exciting. We're going to get lots of content on the day, and then really just try and give you guys an insight into exactly what goes on and what it's like. And we'll be learning about that sort of as we do it, because we don't really know. So this is going to be fun. And then how do you see things looking after R&D? If you give everyone like a rough sort of timeline about what's going to happen from there, because it's all going to kick off, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to get pretty real. I think it depends on how R&D goes. Firstly, if we leave and it's, all perfect, we're really happy with the product, taste, everything, then it's going to be manic. So I think we've got to get the website sorted. It's just a case of getting everything sorted before we pull the trigger on the first run, right? So yeah, website, all our online stores. We need to make decisions on if we're going to use a fulfillment center, if we're going to do all this sorts of things. Again, I think all of this is kind of info for down the line, but these are all the things we have to kind of consider. And yeah, like just all of it, like our routes to market, our marketing strategies, if we're going to, decide to use some ads from the get-go, our ad spend budgets, all these sort of things. It's all really relevant and it's all going to come as quick as it likes, because I think once we've got the product, the designs will be done. We're ready to go. This time's in it. There we go.
Case of like once that order goes through, we'll then have a certain window where obviously we'll be waiting on the manufacturers to like make it, then send it to the co-packer, pack it, and then either leave it there as a fulfillment center or send it to us so we can send the orders out as they come. But during that little period when it's actually getting made is when we're going to have to be just on it with like building the website out, like our pre-launch strategy, all these sorts of things. And it's all going to come at once. But that's kind of the cost of doing it.
Yeah. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Also, there's so much stuff to happen before that. Like I say, R&D, getting the product sorted, then finishing up on designs, all the messaging and stuff on the box, all that sort of stuff, on the stick even, all of it is still yet to come before we can be like, really, let's go.
And something that I also, and something that I also really like the idea of is if we can try and make that as inclusive as possible for the people that are like following us along on this journey. Because if we can try and build it alongside the people that are actually going to be buying it, I think that's a really nice way of making a product, well, I guess that people actually want to buy. So maybe we can even do like little initiatives like, for example, our designer next week is going to send us over like 3 routes that we could potentially go down from a design standpoint for the box. So different styles, different ways of communicating, I guess, our copy visually. So maybe we could post that out on our Instagram and then be like, which one are you voting for? And then the one that gets the most votes, maybe go with that one. And that could be another way of getting that engagement up and really actually building it in public.
100% completely agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think then in terms of updates, that's pretty much everyone up to speed.
Yeah, I've got one more thing to add on to it. It kind of leads on nicely from the social and interacting with people and things. It's firstly, I think I've been personally really surprised about the kind of response from everyone regarding our like social media and what we're doing and all that sort of stuff. In terms of like friends, family, and even people that I wouldn't expect to message me or want to be involved in it. I think it's kind of blown me away, really. I mean, I know we're not like blowing up or anything, but like the response has been really positive, which is great. And I think that also the kind of recommendations about things we could do, or, like I said earlier, like just saying, going into a bit more detail about what we're actually doing and how we're doing it, which people obviously want to know, but we take for granted. So it's really good to have people's responses in that respect. But even, you don't know this yet, but I had a text from our old university saying that once we launched, they would like a discount code for all the students and all the athletes there to use our product from the get-go. Wow. So that's pretty cool. It's up to them.
That's amazing.
There's also been some other people we know reach out from their places of work, seeing if we can stock it in their shops and things, which is sick. So like, people want to help, which is really cool and really just like, yeah, it's just like really awesome that people are actually supporting us and they want to help, and if they can help, they will. So yeah. What do you think of all that? Because obviously I've just told you that now. Don't know if you knew that before.
Yeah, that's actually kind of mad. I did actually see the email from the one lad who did reach out. I did see that, but I didn't know about the university thing. Yeah, that's amazing, actually. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. It's all really like, it's just, yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, I think that's a nice place to kind of wrap it up. But I think that, you know, just we appreciate all the support so far, and you know, anyone who's sharing reels, stories, whatever it is, liking them, commenting, following us, and you know, being part of the journey. So we want to get the people that are actually supporting this whole thing more involved in the decisions we're making, because I think, like I say, it's really relevant for them, and it's just a great way for them to interact with us and the brand. So yeah, looking forward to the next few months, and really looking forward to next week.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually didn't know that they wanted to do that. That's pretty mad. It's actually blown me away a bit, to be fair. Do you know why, though? Because I used to... Because, you know, when I was at university, I used to kill for, like... Do you know when you heard about, like, the little discounts and stuff? And little, like, affiliate links? I used to be all over that stuff. And that's crazy that we can now, like, provide and give back in that way. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I'd love to go there as well, and just like,
yeah.
I don't know, it'd be nice to talk to them, but like we could just give out some free products and stuff like that. It'd be really quite cool.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Wow, that's cool.
Awesome. So yeah, as always, give us a follow on our socials on Instagram, TikTok at Drink Regime, and on YouTube and here in the pod at Building Regime. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.